Let's find out more about Maria's situation, what she will do now since she's left the country, with the Maduro government threatening arrest if she returns, primarily due to an ongoing arrest warrant, they say. Ana Corina Sosa, Maria's daughter, joins us now from Oslo. Ana, welcome to France 24. It is great to speak to you tonight. First of all, let me ask you, this is 2 years in the waiting for you, and I know on the day that she was supposed to be there for the ceremony and you took her place and spoke on her behalf, talked about that moment you were looking forward to seeing her for the first time. What was that like?
First, thank you for having me. That moment it was a moment that millions of Venezuelans dream about, the reunification with their loved ones. I hadn't seen my mother in 2 years, which she had spent most of in isolation, in hiding, with constant threats to her life. And as it's been widely circulated, she, to arrive to Oslo, had to endure one of the most dangerous journeys to leave Venezuela. And I urge people around the world to see this as a clear demonstration of the cruelty of the criminal regime that currently sequesters Venezuela. And the story of my family is one in a million. And we want to use this moment to shine light to the political prisoners and to the millions of Venezuelans that today remain separated from their loved ones.
You've, throughout this time, been a point of contact for us, to talk to us when we couldn't speak to Maria Corina Machado. She was in hiding, she wasn't able to get to connect. Occasionally we could. And therefore, just in terms of your conversations, did it go back and forth? Where were you standing on the idea of her trying to leave the country, given the evident dangers, the surveillance that she was under, the extent of the ability of the Sabine, the Venezuelan intelligence services? What conversation was going on beforehand?
Look, it was, I will be very frank, it was a very long month and few weeks of a lot of uncertainty, in which we spent sleepless nights thinking that was going to be the moment that my mother was going to embark in the journey to leave Venezuela. And many times it was it was aborted because was highly complicated. I mean, my mother is the most wanted person by this regime at the moment. So you can imagine the attention and the dangers that not only she faced, but anyone who dared to help her. So there were a lot of sleepless nights, and it just all came together at the last minute. I must say I never lost hope that I would see her in person, though it became more and more difficult every day that passed. What I do want to emphasize is, for my mother, the number one condition was that she could find a way to return to Venezuela. As a daughter, I say this with a heavy heart, because I finally have her next to me, embracing her, hugging her, feeling some level of normality again, where we could see her, when we can wake up and know that I'm going to see her that day. It is something me and my siblings and my family are still trying to process. It feels surreal, but we know that this is temporary, because my mother will return home and will be aside Venezuelans until her mission to free our country is realized. And I trust and I know that we're on the brink of freedom, but she will be back in Venezuela and will fight every day until that happens.
2 points you raised there, Anna. First of all, that surreal moment. You've been in kind of operation mode, non-stop, your whole psyche for 2 years, for longer, but particularly the fact they hadn't seen her in that time. And suddenly that psychologically has switched, that she's, perhaps a few rooms from you. You can talk to her. She's here. She's close to you. How are you able to kind of switch into a kind of mother-daughter mode, and also just the security awareness around you and the level of threat that you see now? Because I imagine it still isn't, she's in a different country, but it still won't be zero.
I know, I will say to answer that last point, when my mother arrived in Oslo, obviously there was a commotion, and the Norwegian police and the Nobel Committee have been wonderful, but also very diligent in ensuring her safety. And for me, it feels strange because I'm like, she's my mother. She doesn't need that much security and safety. And they, worked wonders to ensure she's safe around all of these days that she's been here. But one moment when my mother arrived, after we spent a time as a family, after we cried, after we hugged each other, we laughed, we sat on the floor looking at each other, just kind of processing the moment of having each other in person and seeing each other's faces. She did then go out and talk to the police that were in charge of securing her and said, I am going out to see my people. And there were moments of tension because they said, it is 3 a.m. in the morning. We cannot completely guarantee your safety. Absolutely not. And she really held their hand and looked at them and said, I have gotten so far for this moment. I need to be with my people. I trust my people. I will be safe. Look at me. I will be safe. I trust them. And I was just staring at the moment, and it was just, that is one of those moments as you live that dichotomy of I see a leader, I get inspired by what she's saying and I trust what she's saying, but I also am a daughter and I want to protect her. But as you've seen, it was impossible to detain her, and she went outside, and it was honestly quite a beautiful, moving moment. And she does know her people. And, while I was nervous as it was happening, and you live under this adrenaline, it was also quite a historic moment to see too.
And it takes me on to the fact you also talked about, what happens next. And you have this dichotomy, surely, as a daughter, that she's known around the world. She's known particularly in Venezuela. All the supporters call her the Iron Lady. Before I ask you about that, let's just have a listen to the question. When she was asked, will you be going back either post a Maduro regime or around about now? This is what she said.
¿Vas a volver a una Venezuela post-régimen o a una Venezuela todavía con régimen? ¿Qué crees?
Only God knows that. What I can tell you is that Maduro's regime is in its final days. It will come to an end with or without negotiations. It is in Maduro's best interest for it to be through negotiations. At this point, he must be very clear about that, and there are probably actors who do not want him to do so or will not let him do so.
We know from human rights groups, Anna, how savage they say the Maduro regime is, not just arresting but disappearing people. We saw a sudden death in prison over the weekend of a former governor, an opposition figure. When you hear she's the Iron Lady, that must have kind of be double-edged for you. It's your mother, you want her along as possible. And that leads me to the other part of the point, which is, where do you stand on her returning?
I think with time, as a family, we have come to realize there's no other way for her. It's once you adopt a mission, such a noble mission as your life's purpose, there is nothing that really can get in between, nor I want to get in between that, because I know that is what she's meant to do, and what, in a way, came to this life to do. And I see her putting her heart and soul for Venezuela's future. It hasn't been just the last 2 years when she became the elected opposition figure. It has been for the last 20 years of our lives, and at many moments she has faced enormous and very serious risks. And as a family, we have stood behind her and understood that that is also our role to support her and to support our country. So the moment before, even before she had left Venezuela, and the moment she made the decision that why she had to be in Oslo for Venezuela's cause, and that she understood this was going to help the cause for freedom, I knew instantly that she was going to return. And she said it in her answer, whether that is in a free Venezuela or still under the regime about to fall, it will happen. And I want to tell Venezuelans hearing this, I know they feel it in their hearts. She will never stop, and she's doing everything she can, even in this very moment, to help free our country. And I know we will see that day.
A lot of people watching, Anna, a lot of people listening won't know the full extent of what it means to be hiding in Venezuela because they won't understand perhaps the ability of not just the security services there, intelligence, the Sabine, the biometrics involved that I assume, and you would tell me otherwise, that she would have been disguised in some way, trying to cross, but I guess biometrics only takes you so far. That's why you can't leave at an airport. And on top of that, you've got Cuban intelligence as well. Can you describe to those just trying to understand an idea of what it's like living in hiding, what that meant in terms of surveillance, moving, being watched all the time?
Well, in terms of surveillance, I can tell you this is one of the most repressive regimes in the world out there. And when you say the Cuban intelligence, many people make the mistake of underestimating the intelligence apparatus and the cruelty under which this regime operates. They are highly sophisticated. In terms of communications, my mother, we had to take so much precaution, and thank God for technology that we could continue communicating on a daily basis with using safe channels, very secure or more secure safe channels, but she couldn't use her video. There were many times that I just wanted to see her face, and she to protect herself and where she was and not show her background. It was impossible to do so. So I would only kind of guess what she was doing because I heard noises in the background. Like it is, we speak in codes. We never say to each other where we are exactly. We use words that will resonate, where we could infer what we're meaning. And this is something we almost now take as normalcy, but it is under such risk that one operates. And I do want to recognize and tell the world that every single Venezuelan that takes any part in helping my mother, whether that is transferring her from one place to the other, whether that is delivering food at undisclosed times and moments, and my mother didn't know what she was going to eat or when or if. And every Venezuelan that was involved in this operation that I don't even know about, for their safety, for my mother's safety, and for my own safety, because they could also come to me to get information from me. All of them have risked their lives, truly risked their lives in doing so. This is made by Venezuela. The reason she's safe now is thanks to Venezuelan civilians, everyday civilians that take enormous risk and risk their own lives and their families' lives, because the government not only goes against the individual, automatically the blame gets transferred to their family members. And this is serious, it's severe, it's an immense danger, and people still chose to do it. And I will forever be grateful to them. And I don't know them, and they'll most likely remain anonymous. And I hope they get to hear these words from me, from a daughter, to thank them for keeping my mother safe all of these months.
As you said, there are incredible risks because the reach of the authoritarian Maduro government is not just its security services, it's those that are paid, willing or not, to pass on information. And at any point in that rescue operation, somebody could have called in, somebody could have dialed in, and suddenly it would be over. And as you say, it extends to family, your family, those in the opposition as well. In the time that you've got, clearly you're not going to want to rush your mother into making a decision right now on going back. Is an alternative that you're looking at, balancing safety and influence and keeping that opposition, attention, energy, momentum alive, to go to the US? Your mother has influence. She is an ear she has word in the ear of President Trump, who clearly speaks about her power that she has there. Would that be an option in Washington?
I can't comment too much on that for obvious reasons, but I do want to insist that of course that the fact that she's out will open many opportunities to push forward the cause for Venezuelans' freedom, and that my mother she's working tirelessly day and night, even since she got here and while she wasn't hiding in isolation, to make that happen. And she will be back in Venezuela when it is safe, as soon as it is physically possible for her to do so. And while that happens, she will have, she will do everything in her power to also advance that while she's outside and abroad. But the details I cannot comment.
No,
but rest assured, everything she does is towards that goal.
I completely understand, Anna. A final thought from me. I mentioned the Iron Lady. Do you get a moment next couple of days where you say, listen, can we just, and we know we've got a huge task ahead in terms of keeping that momentum alive, to celebrate, to mark this moment as a family, away from everything else?
We are, and we're doing it in this very moment. I mean, there's just more than celebrating the prize, because we have done that with next to Venezuelans, because it's really a moment to honor what is happening in my country. And that was always the intention, to bring to this universal platform the struggle that my country still is going through. So I think we have, in a way, tried and I hope achieved to honor that. And at this moment, honestly, what we're doing is just try to feel very normal. Just, walk on the streets, kind of look at the Christmas lights, even, there's minor things like people don't realize. My mother hasn't been able to leave Venezuela for 12 years. Just today I paid with my phone using my credit card, the Apple Pay. And she said, wait, where's your credit card? I'm saying I can pay with my phone. She hadn't seen that live. It's just how the world has changed in 12 years. And as much as she has been connected to Venezuela and to people all over the world, Zoom, through Teams, through, making statements and traveling the country, there are minor things even me as a daughter don't realize that she has not lived in person. So beyond just kind of celebrating the enormity of that honor that is receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, I think what we cherish the most is just feeling normal again.
It's incredible, powerful testimony, Anna. Just almost like being in self-imposed exile, suddenly coming out into the light, almost, as you say, ordinary Norwegian life, and the everyday that she's going to clearly, in the days ahead, see big change, from what you show her as well. Anna, pleasure to talk to you tonight. All the best. Stay safe in every sense for your family as well, and we will talk again soon. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
And you. Ana Corina Sosa, the daughter of Maria Corina Machado.